Hi everyone and welcome to the ECF's Checkmate COVID event, which is a 24-hour blitz marathon. So I know certainly at least some people are going to be playing the full 24 hours. So blitz, it's 5 minutes plus 0 seconds being played on chess.com. And I'm thrilled to be joined by GM Michael Adams and WFM Shohreh Bayat, who will be commentating the first session for the first hour, taking us through till 6 o'clock. Let's see who's in the tournament. I'm going to share my screen. Wait a minute, I'm going to actually put your names on as well. All right, participant names. There we go. And let's share my screen. Hi, everybody. Hi.
Hello.
There.
Hello, Natasha. Hello, Michael.
So we have here, Howitzer has just joined the tournament, who is David Howell. We have Kilcrit, who is, I think, Danny Gormally, Thomas Rendell, Keith Arkle, Siddharth GM, Story Sniper, who is Charlie Story, Checkmate a lot, who is Peter Finn, lots and lots of players, a Trekker, who I don't know who that is at the moment, Chris Davison, Ferrari fan is Robert Starley, Queens and Pawns, I think, is a junior player, Simon B4A, Peter Chaplin's a regular, Inglaterra is another regular ECF player. I also know Stanbad is Stanley Badachoni, who is the British under-12 online blitz champion. So I expect his blitz skills will come into play here. Evening, hi, Tilbs. Okay, so Matthew, Mickey, who is your favourite for this event, do you think?
I don't know. Who won it last time? I don't.
Last time was very close towards the end. I think it went right into the final session, and it was won by Harry Grieve, I think, just very narrowly from Danny Gormally.
Yeah, I seem to remember Danny Gormally did quite well, but I think he might be commentating for a bit this year, so that could be a feint.
I'm not sure if he's playing all of it.
Yeah, I was playing last year as well, so that was actually very fun.
Were you playing, Shohreh? How did you do? Did you play? How many hours did you play?
I played a lot, and actually I won something as well. So that was a 20 hours tournament, and I tried to play as much as I could. I played 90 games, something like that.
Wow, that is a lot of games. Hi, Ocelot. Hi, Twitchy Column. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so we are going to start. It starts in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So do you guys like playing blitz online, or what do you prefer, over the board or online? What's your favorite?
Over the board with my dismal mouse skills, definitely.
For me, it's online because I can do pre-move. I love pre-moves. So that's the point. But actually, over the board is also very interesting. So each of them has its excitements. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Have either of you got any over the board events lined up?
No, not really. No.
Nothing yet. No,
I have dreams, but no real things lined up at the moment. No.
Yeah, not yet, but we are hoping to have some tournaments in few months, right? Yeah, maybe next month or after that, as soon as it's possible.
Yeah. Now Stanbad is asking, Mickey, are you going to actually play in this event, do you think? Or are you going to stick to the commentary box?
I don't know. I might play tomorrow. I'll see how things go.
Excellent.
I think I played about 20 games last year.
Did you? Yeah, I played quite. I did. Well, my tactic was to stay up till the middle of the night and play when no one else was playing, and I thought that would do my chances really good. But the trouble was when I did that, I stayed up till the middle of the night, but then all the strong players were playing in the middle of the night, and it was really tricky.
You have to get up early in the morning. That would be the best time, no?
Yeah, I'm back on at 8 a.m., but I think 6 a.m. would probably be a good time, wouldn't it?
Because all the people there all night will be fading by then.
Yeah. You got to time it exactly. It's all about timing, this event.
So we are about 1 minute to start, right? 1 minute.
Just 1 minute to start.
Yeah.
And so, no, actually, I don't know with chess.com, because whether they pair the first and second play, whether they play people with a similar strength at first, and then it kind of pairs more randomly. We will see about that. And the other thing I also don't know is, can you berserk? Because I know some of these players love berserking.
That's not possible on chess.com.
Not possible. So we're going to see some more sedate games. 5 minutes.
Yeah, and they think they can do like 5 moves, 3 moves in advance on this platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no berserking. Southern Chris, middle of the night wasn't so great for low-rated players last year. Yeah, I probably ended up playing you, Southern Chris. Maybe.
But they can stop playing at any time and rejoin to the tournament again, right?
Yeah, you can stop and start as much as you like. I think I'll play a little bit at some point, but I'll time.
You're trying to tempt me. I may play some games later as well then. Okay, so we have a few seconds to start. I think Natasha got disconnected, so we have to share the screen again because our screen also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see me? It's this is now
David
Howell. It's Danny Gormally against David Howell.
So, Michael, what do you think about this opening?
Yeah, it's a very serious game to start with. They both seem to be taking it very seriously. I thought this was a fun event. Solid Queen's Gambit declined.
Okay.
Queen's Gambit is a good thing to start with these days.
And so, let me just check.
Famous
everybody can see me right. I think my connection's a bit low.
Yeah, the board's a bit fuzzy.
So far sounds solid. Now H3.
Yeah, it looks fairly comfortable for black now, having got rid of the light squared bishop, got developed. Bishop on h4 won't do too much. I think maybe I should have thrown in a queen b3 a little bit earlier. Is Danny planning to castle queenside? That would be very ambitious.
Isn't it a bit dangerous?
Castling queenside, I think so, but I wasn't sure why here. He's got a slight problem now that if he castles kingside, that maybe g5 might be winning a pawn, so he's had to give up the bishop. But looks like black's bishop is pretty good in this position on d6.
So knight is coming to e4, right? The black plans.
Yeah, it's probably quite a nice position for black in general, because not really that clear where to put the white king. Okay, Danny's decided to go for the aggressive option, or at aggression, but I'm not quite sure his pieces are ideally placed for that.
Oh, king f1, that's interesting.
So he wants to put the king on g2, and maybe hope to play h4, g5 later. But looks like the idea is to put the knight on e4, queen e7.
So what is the, how can white continue the attack here?
Well, I think knight g3, I guess black probably doesn't want the knight on f5, so g6, and at some stage he's going to have to play h4, but he might well want to go king g2 first, and maybe even bring the other rook over from a1 to g1, just to get pieces on the king side. That looks like, well, that's where most of the action is going to be. So the bishop's going to come back to d6. Not sure this bishop b4 idea was so great. The bishop was probably just as ended up going back to d6 anyway. But I guess David would be quite happy to get rid of that knight if he can.
Yeah, so avoiding exchange.
So he's gone king g7. So maybe if he wants to, he can play rook h8 to cover action on the h and g files. Maybe black might want to play h5 himself if he gets the opportunity here.
So that's very interesting because both sides are playing in the king side.
Yeah, well, there wasn't really any way to get any kind of minority attack going with the pawn on a5, bishop on d6, queen on e7. It's very difficult to play b4, so not so straightforward. So he actually played this rook f8, was quite clever because I think he's anticipating h4 and then to play f6, and then the rook will be quite well placed on the f file.
Yes, maybe that's a good idea to switch between games and see some other games as well, if possible. Yeah. Okay, we have another game now here.
So it looks like typically a solid play by Thomas Rendell in this game. Both kings wide open here.
Black king is on the center.
So looks like this bishop e2 move was a little bit sneaky. Maybe some plan to go queen g8 check, which is quite a strong threat. But
Yeah, g4. What about f6 now? g4, f6, or even g6 and then queen g8?
Yeah, g5 is maybe black will look to swap queens, queen c2.
Yeah,
It's the bishop on e2. Okay, but this looks, now the queen's gone to f3, looks less promising. Queen d2, attacking the pawn on g5, and I guess planning to play rook c2 next if possible.
f6.
f6. This is a very complicated position.
Yeah, it's interesting because both sides has good chances. But maybe white is a bit better.
So if knight takes g5, he can just ignore the threat to the queen and play f takes g7 and make a new queen.
That's interesting. Yes.
So that's a bit of a, that's something maybe Keith wasn't aware of that, because then it starts to look a bit unpleasant, because if he moves the bishop, then g6, well, 2 pawns on the 6th rank is not really something that you feel very comfortable with. But
yeah, but white seems winning this game, right? Because there is no way to defend this.
yeah, I don't see. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's still quite a complicated position.
Mm-hmm.
Bishop f8 looks like a reasonable try. Maybe Keith will try something like.
It's going to be a queen.
Knight g5. Yeah, I thought Keith might try this knight g5. It looks dubious, but I'm not exactly sure what white should do. Check. King d8 only move. King e7 was queen f6 mate.
Yeah.
But not so clear.
Just queen f6.
Queen f6, maybe he can just run with king c7, and the bishop on e2 is always hanging with check. So, I mean, that may be good, but it's very complicated. White's king is also wide open.
Yes.
I mean, there are lots of other possible moves as well for white here. Going for the check. King c7.
Maybe taking e5 now.
Take on e5, probably bishop d6. So Keith's got a check in. So white also maybe has some idea to play rook c1 check now, but I guess black's going to also look to give check. Perhaps queen g4 check is one possibility.
Now black's game is okay, actually.
White also maybe has some idea to play rook c1 check now, but I guess black's going to also look. Oh, very calm move from Keith. Just developing a bishop. Doesn't give a check at all.
Now black's game is okay. So not much time left. Only.
Oh, they're both very low on time now.
Yes.
I think someone's going to get flagged. Yeah, queen takes e5 now, but still he's still pinned, yeah.
Yeah. What a nice game.
But Keith is very low on time. Will Keith have enough time to win the game?
Yeah, I think he's going to lose on time. That's it. Lost time.
Thomas Rendell much more practical there, just making a load of random quick moves and managing to push Keith over the edge before. Although in the end, actually, White's position is quite okay after he made a new queen.
Yeah, that was a beautiful game. Maybe now we could watch another game. Let's see what we have.
Well, I think we're joining this game just as it's about to end.
Mating one.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much play in this one.
Yes.
Black can give a couple of checks, queen b1 and queen e4, but not gonna do much except delay the inevitable.
We just reached late to this game. Okay, now we have another game. What do you think about this position?
Looks quite nice for white, actually. The knight looks very useful here. It could jump to some good squares, and this d5 square looks a bit weak, and also this pawn on f5 looks a little bit weak. I think he might well just put the knight into f5 now. Looks like a good...
So knight on f5 can attack into the pawn on d6 as well, right?
Yeah, it's just quite nicely located, and both white's rooks are well placed in the center here, and the queen's on a good square on d5. And normally when you have a knight on f5, this is very strong, and you want to get rid of it quickly, but black's not going to get rid of this knight very easily or quickly. And like you mentioned, now the pawn on d6 is hanging after rook c5. So another problem for black. Maybe he was planning to play some move like queen d7, but this loses at least a pawn. Something like d5, then the pawn on e5 could end up hanging. So he's gone for queen d7 anyway. Just saying, get rid of a pawn to try and change some of the weaker pieces. A nice feature is that if he captures with the knight on d6, then the knight might be able to drop back to e4 later on. That would be he's taken on g7. I do not like giving up that knight at all. And also, now he doesn't want a pawn either.
So I need to just share my screen.
Yeah, no problem. The position's gone, but white will probably win on time, is my prediction, even without seeing the position. Okay, we've
So
lost the game anyway.
What else we have? Maybe.
I think it was the one right at the top that you had.
This one?
I think so, yeah. Now the game's still going.
Yes.
And white still has twice as much time. But black's actually doing okay on the board now. But black's maybe even a little better in this endgame. He's got a bit more space.
I think white is going to lose on time, but let's see.
Well, but black has less time, no?
Still, yeah, now it's getting equal. Regarding time,
Okay, I think black has grasped the clock situation.
Couldn't it take just e4?
Yeah, the pawn on e4 was hanging, but with 3 seconds left, I don't think the moves matter too much. It's going to be decided on the clock.
Yeah,
and a win for black.
Okay, let's see another game. Let's see what we have. Maybe this one, some ladies' game.
Yeah, actually looks pretty good for white, this position. No?
Yeah, so Maria is right.
Actually, in exchange and a pawn up, and this pawn on f7 has just disappeared with check. Well, there's actually mating combination here. Oh, she's played it already. Knight takes g6, and the bishop on h2 is going to land on e5. And that is the end of the game. Very nice, smooth win from Photo Chess there.
Perfect. And then we have this game.
So another game. Looks like white is fairly dominant in this one. Looks like a piece and a couple of pawns up, and also a long way ahead on the clock. I don't think there's going to be any way back for black here. Yeah, just b6 looks pretty.
So the pawn on b6 is going to be a queen, and there's no defense for that, right? Maybe we can switch to another game. Let's see what we have. This game.
Okay, so this game looks like black has an extra piece. Seems to be 2 knights against 1 bishop. Oh, and that's a good way to use the knights, forking both rooks. So white's giving a check, but doesn't really lead anywhere. So, yeah, white's very short of time in this game as well, and black's basically a rook up. So another game. As soon as we go to a game, it ends.
That's the whole point about blitz, I think. So let's see what else we have. Let's see this game.
So Keith's back in action, and he's playing a rook and pawn ending. Not for the first time in his life, but in this case, he's actually a pawn down for not very much. So it will be interesting to see what happens here.
Looks to him just similar in games as well, actually. I think it's the same events last year. Yeah.
So it looks like this rook on d7. He's maybe planning to play rook d3. I think that's his plan. Lots of 4 white pawns on the 3rd rank there. So that's going to be a good place to put the black rook, and maybe hope to bring its colleague on e6 to e3 and harvest some pawns on that rank.
So whose position is better, you think? It's equal?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not so easy to prevent this possibility. White's gone c4, rook d5, but that means that black does have the option to take on b3, but white can then give some checks.
So check on d7, and then the king would be...
Certainly white can give perpetual check.
It's going to
maybe
be
what he does. White's quite a long way behind on the clock. He could also try rook a2, maybe, threaten mate, force black to cover the back rank somehow, if he wants to play for more. But not an easy position for white to win when he's so far behind on the clock.
Seconds. And roll, yeah, I accepted them.
Taking the practical decision to secure half a point.
Yes. And then we have this game.
Well, oh, this is a crazy game. Looks like black is in quite a bit of trouble here. Seems that he's the exchange down. The king on e7 looks very unhappy. Perhaps some good news for black is that the queen on a6 is preventing white from castling. Bishop b4 check is one possibility. Queen c7 check also looks quite a tempting move to play. Queen c7 check. Black is going to have to block that. So bishop d7. Pawn on b7 could now be captured.
I can show this game from the beginning to see how was the opening.
Maybe let's see this game from the beginning a bit. So Sicilian.
Yes, and then b4.
Oh, b4. Isn't this Simon Williams' favourite new line, this early b4? Quite dangerous, actually, the wing gambit against the Sicilian. Not so easy to meet, particularly in a blitz game. So white gaining a bit of time, kicking the black queen around. Rook b1, wow. Throwing in a piece as well. Was that intentional? Or did it just work out well? Knight b8. Queen c2, sneaky move threatening mate in one. Knight a6. Knight a6 doesn't look so great somehow. This bishop b5 check now starts to look rather dangerous for black. Knight e5. f7's not easy to defend. So it just tries to make a bit of room for the king. I mean, still this knight on h8 could be a bit stuck, I guess. This is perhaps the good news from black's point of view. In the long term, it may not be easy for the knight to get out. So he actually continue bishop b4 check. Still, now things are looking better for black. The king on f8 looks a lot safer because it can head towards the corner. It can go to g8 and maybe take the knight on h8, but it also looks a lot safer. This bishop b4 takes f8. Actually, it just exchanged one of black's pieces that wasn't so well placed. So I'm not so sure about that. g4, but okay,
now that's maybe the current position.
Yeah, because the bishop on d2 was also protecting white's king, which was useful. Now there are some possible active possibilities for black. Rook c8 is a good move. If queen takes b7, he had rook c1 check. So queen drops back to f4, pinning the knight. He wants to play g5. That was the idea behind the g4 move. e5, another good move. Black's actually playing a lot of moves coming with gain of time, just kicking the white pieces around. Queen b4, but now the king is heading towards the corner. Knight takes d5, also grabbing a pawn. That's quite a good square for the knight as well. Lots of
so it can take and okay, just take the queen and then check on c1. What do you think?
Takes and rook. Yeah, that's not bad. Takes and bishop c6 also might be. I mean, he can also give check on c1 immediately, although after king d2.
But the problem is that white has rook b8, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe even just queen a5 check might be quite a good move because it gives check, it protects the knight. He's gone for takes and bishop c6. I think that's a reasonable choice. Knight f4, so he's attacking the rook on h1. Not hurrying to take the knight on h8.
Yeah, black seems very okay.
Well, castling would not be a great idea here. So white's avoided that. He got on rook g1, king takes h8. Oh, well, white's well in the game now. I was thinking maybe rook g3 to try and get the rook into play that way. Rook d8. Yeah, he's angling to play bishop f3, rook d1 mate. White will need to prevent that. Oh, okay. I think he's just driven the bishop where it wants to go.
Yes.
Rook c1 is going to be the only move.
Oh, that's
possibilities. Knight d3, knight e2 also forked both rooks. Yeah, king d2 was a bit better.
That's a mate. So we can go to another game now. Let's see what we have here. Oh, this is just finished.
Another game we killed off.
We have some interesting games here. Again, another rook ending.
Keith's going to be happier about this endgame. Looks very nice for black. Black has an extra pawn, and also his rooks are very, very well placed. Both white's rooks completely passive, defending b2. So it's not. If the b pawn advances, then f2 is hanging. So it's very hard for white to make a move. But he decided to give up the f pawn. Oh, Keith doesn't even want to take this pawn. Slightly surprised about that. Now he's regretting not taking it because he's gone back to attack it again. But it hasn't really changed the evaluation. It's a very tough endgame for white. Now he's taken it.
Yeah, that's. So I'm going to just switch the game to another game now. This one sounds interesting. It looks interesting. Yeah.
This is quite an interesting game. So looks like black's actually doing fairly well here. Looks like an extra exchange and also an extra pawn, if I'm counting right. So rook d8 just played. Looks like knight f7 is not really possible because there's not going to be a back rank mate. So c4 is probably quite a sensible move to secure the bishop, but h6 is a good reply, kicking that knight back. I'm not sure that white is any better than just to retreat to f3, but not really much compensation for the material, really. This pawn on e3 is quite strong, and all black's pieces are quite well placed. Rook takes d5 looks like a good move, and it's already
And
been
that's
played.
it. Black
That's the end of that one.
So we are going to watch another game. Let's see what we have. Okay, some other games. Okay, that's very clear. Doesn't need much analyze.
This would be a difficult game for me. To mate someone with 23 seconds left, I'm not sure I could manage from this position. Are you very good with the mouse? Are you very quick?
I am good with primos. This one, what do you think of it?
New game. Okay, well, this is equal material, but white is very actively placed and just grabbed a pawn on a7. So white's one pawn up, but the main advantage is just queen and bishop both lined up against this pawn on f7. King f8 is a good move, getting the king out of that pin. Queen d4, planning to perhaps go queen h8 check next. Perhaps black might consider h5. It would be nice to get the black queen more active as well.
Try and find some checks, maybe.
Nice to get the black queen on a dark square somehow. That would, I think, be used for maybe queen g5. But he's activated the bishop. That's also useful. But now white's thinking that he can just play the endgame, which is pretty much forced.
Well, now white has to win, right?
White should be winning with the extra pawn, but it's not completely straightforward.
Yes, because it's also same colors bishop. Both of them are on white squares, but not very straightforward. Let's see if white can manage it.
Yeah, black has some hopes here. Maybe if you could get the bishop to d5 and king to a5, that would be ideal situation there. That's what he didn't really want to happen, the d pawn to start moving forward. Now both the pawns are going forward, so I don't see much hope for black once the pawns get to the 5th, 6th rank.
Yes, now that seems completely winning.
Yeah, swapping the bishops and the a pawn will skate home there.
Then let's go to another game. See this one. One grandmaster against one international master.
So, what do you think here?
Let's see. That's a complicated position, but white seems okay, good, right? I mean,
yeah, I think we're looking at equal material. White's somehow much more active. Both rooks doubled on the d file. This rook on e8 is a bit passive, tied to the defense of e7, and also not so many moves for a lot of black's pieces. Bishop on f5, a bit short of room.
knight is also in a happy position in the center.
I wonder whether white might want to retreat the knight. Yeah, he's retreated the knight, aiming to play e4, which is awkward for the bishop on f5. Not so easy for black here.
Yes, very passive pieces.
Retreats the knight to give the bishop a square on e6, but still a little bit. And yeah, it's David Howe, I think, playing white, and he's played e5, trying to block that bishop on g7. Still f6, fighting to keep that diagonal open.
Okay, it wanted to go to c5, so black played knight d7 to prevent it. What would you suggest for white now?
Yeah, it's a key moment for white, really. It would be nice to come up with a strong move here, but I don't see anything too obvious. I mean, e takes f6 would definitely suit black, but I'm not sure I see a clearly better possibility. Yeah, he did it. Knight f2.
So shall we switch our rooks to e5 now? Is it a good idea or not?
I think he's going to jump with the knight first. Yeah, actually he's done that. Yeah, as you suggested, to put the knight to g5 and e5, and now doubling up.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
Maybe now the knight might jump back to e4. Always tricky when knights start jumping in blitz somehow.
White gets one pawn.
Yeah, I think this was a good decision. At least he gets to take a pawn on a2, but the pawn on g6 is quite weak also. Yeah, white quite a long way ahead on the clock in this game. That may be the key factor here. Yeah, king e4 is a very strong move. The knight doesn't have anywhere to go at all. Bishop totally dominating the knight here.
And that's
King's going to go and take the pawn on g6. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch to another game. Still in the opening so far. Maybe we can see the game from the beginning.
Okay.
White played b3, then b5.
Famous b3.
e4, it takes, now x3. Okay, opposite castles, it's always interesting. And this is the current position.
Yeah, so black's not worried too much about the pawn structure, but played very aggressively with this early e5. Suspect that it's not too great for black, but sometimes when you have a very bad pawn structure, you get lots of open lines, and maybe if he can get his rooks on the g file quickly, it could be a possible playable position for black.
The only problem is that this f4 pawn actually blocked the bishop, so I can't see how black could continue the attack after bringing the rook on g5.
And the other option is to maybe just put a rook on the e file, and because if he can put a rook on e3, it won't be so easy for white to get rid of it. So I think white is lining up to play b4 and try and open some lines against the exposed black king on the queen side.
Yeah, it's
d4. Okay, d4 was a bit helpful to white's plans.
Now I think white is winning the game because
Bishop
black has
c5.
to play and b5 now. That's it.
Yeah, b4 just winning material. I think this game is
just
over.
losing a bishop. Another game that we can watch it is this one. Oh, this is almost finishing. So we have a king here, and then
Yeah, this doesn't look too good for black. He seems to be 4 pawns down, and he also has quite a bad position, which is never a great position to be in. Not to worry, only 23 and a bit hours to go. We'll be over in no time.
yeah, and white has enough time to win the game actually.
Yeah, the clock situation is also quite favourable for white. Also, just taken another pawn as well.
Yes. So we can switch to another game. I'm just looking to see what games we have.
But are these the scores that they have, or?
Yeah, I think the scores is in front of their names, but they don't play equal number of games sometimes. So some people get more score than others because the format is arena. It's not just Swiss tournament. Like some people play faster, so they can play more games.
Yeah, sure, but it seems to be a big discrepancy, even allowing for that. But maybe not everyone started at 5 o'clock.
And the other issue is that when you win in a row, then you get more points.
Okay, yeah, this is true, yeah.
Okay, we have this game, which white is winning. And yeah, black just resigned. Then we have, this game sounds more interesting. Black just played g5, attacking.
Okay, so there's another David Howell's black in this one. Yeah? Okay, knight g1. not sure about that move because the knight on e2 was covering the f4 square. I'm not sure I would be desperate to let the black knight land on f4 in this position.
Bishop b1 maybe?
Bishop b1? Yeah,
B1.
maybe. I mean, even, yeah, it has to be a little bit careful. Even something like g4 immediately maybe doesn't work, but it could definitely be a problem. Okay, it's happened. So I was thinking maybe bishop h4, but just g takes f3 is probably good. White has to play knight takes f3 and then queen g7, and its mate on g2 is being threatened again and again.
There's a big difference between their times as well. Black has 3 minutes, white only has 1 minute, and black has a much better position.
Okay, g3. There are some pieces hanging. This rook on d8 is hanging, and now the knight on f4 also.
And then bishop on b7 looks very strong, right?
Yeah. Queen g4 hitting the knight on f3. Queen d1 looks like the best response. Yeah.
Okay. That's looking simpler.
Well, white got the piece back, which is good news, but this diagonal is very, very sensitive. White also doesn't have a lot of time.
I think black is going to win on time as well.
Yeah, probably. Maybe white can throw in d5. Try to block this diagonal somehow.
d4.
But it's opened up again.
Yeah, that's it. And the end of the game. Now we can switch to another game. Let's see some other games like of other players.
I think it's another wing gambit.
Yes, the popular opening.
Doesn't look too bad for black, although queen b6, I think I might have preferred knight g6 there. Queen coming out just becomes a target for white's pieces.
Maybe just knight b2 and give up the pawn. Or
yeah, knight b2 is quite tempting. I mean, I would say also maybe some move to try and trap the queen, maybe something like queen a4, maybe to go rook a2. The black queen doesn't actually have that many squares. Rook a3 is another possibility to play rook b3, but at least that won't win the queen.
But then queen goes to a1 or a2.
Yeah, then the queen can escape on the a file. So maybe that's not the worst result for black. Rook b3. Still, white has pretty good compensation for the pawn, nonetheless.
No, white's pieces actually are in good positions, but black still
Yeah.
has many
White
things.
has nice central control. This bishop on e3 is very useful as well because black would really like to play bishop c5, but he's going to have to put the bishop somewhere. If he has to play bishop e7, looks a much more passive square. But black needs to develop. He's quite a long way behind in development.
How can we trap the queen? Maybe knight a3 and then bishop b1, but the still
Knight
queen.
a3 and bishop b1 is definitely a good plan.
But then still queen can go to a8. a1, I mean, sorry.
A1.
a1.
Yeah, but it's kind of running out of room, though, I feel there. Maybe
Yeah.
then queen c2, bishop a2.
Yes.
But it's also quite tempting to throw in a check on b5. Knight a, but he's played knight a3. I mean, knight a3 also, maybe the knight can jump to b5 at some moment, or bishop b5 check could also be.
Bishop b5 is very tempting, yes.
Perhaps black should try bishop d7, at least to have some bishop a4 idea and cover this diagonal. I think there are a few ways to trap the queen after bishop b1, queen a1. Maybe knight e1 to c2 is one possible route. Bishop c1 to b2 might be another. But white has lots of other possibilities, doesn't have to focus always energy on trapping the queen.
I'm going to try to see what other games also we have. So,
I can stick with this game for a moment. Rook e1.
Okay.
Now, rook e1 is clever because this is another way to do it, because now he wants to go rook e2, another way to trap the queen. Now, that was actually maybe the simplest way to do it. Actually, that was nice.
Finally, yeah, that was nice. So finally trap the queen.
Yeah, black can throw in bishop takes f3, but as long as white just recaptures, yeah, it's really going to be very difficult to drum up compensation for the queen with black here, because his king is still stuck in the center. Trying to get castled. Well, at least black can get castled, but he is a rook for a queen down still.
Okay, now that white is winning, let's say have a look at this game as well, because David Sedgwick is an arbiter and he's playing this tournament. So let's see how arbiters are playing. What do you think?
Well, it looks like David Sedgwick is doing quite well here, I would say. He seems to be a piece up and also rather dangerous looking attack here. Probably just anywhere to retreat the bishop with the discovered check, perhaps back to b6 would be a decent move here. Not the only good possibility. He's gone another way, bishop c3 check. I'm not so sure about that, because maybe white can go king e3 now.
Yes.
He's repeating moves. The arbiters know all the tricks.
No, hopefully not. Really, see, we shouldn't repeat move in a winning position.
Yeah, he's going to try and flag his opponent or something like that. Sporting behaviour. No. Well, the problem for black here, of course, is this pawn on c6 is actually hanging with check. This is the only active possibility for white. So
white is escaping from repetition.
Well, I'm not sure, because rook f8 check, it still looks to me the king can't go to the g file, unfortunately, so it's going to have to go back to e2, but at least rook f8 is good, but otherwise maybe not so straightforward. Oh, okay, he took the pawn, so he defends c6 and also threatens queen f2 check.
Queen f2 and rook g8, probably just capturing the queen.
But white could try throwing in rook takes d4 here. Black can't capture because the rook on e8 is hanging, but lots of good moves.
That.
Oh, queen g3. Okay,
trying to cover can take e4 now. Yeah, that's just queen takes e4, and the end of the game.
Takes e4 would have been good, or checkmate, depending on
how. Yeah, he missed the checkmate.
Yeah, I think he's going to be okay though. I think checkmate will occur fairly soon anyway.
Yeah, I would do. And then rook g8 and
maybe rook g8 might be the checkmate.
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, Cedric won the game. So let's see what other games we have. Yeah, I see Nigel Tower is playing, so Nigel is white.
Yeah, it looks like he's doing pretty well here. White seems to be the exchange up and a couple of extra pawns. In fact, it was even White's move. I didn't even realize this. So he's just swapping rooks.
Yeah, he has a good position. Just d4, d5, and like that, right?
Yeah, I think White just needs to push the pawns forward.
But now we have to defend c4.
Yeah, c5 is possible. You could maybe even give up this pawn with d5, but c5 is also fine. Yeah, lots of good possibilities for White here.
Yes. What do you think about taking bishop with rook?
Yeah, I think that's a very practical choice, but I think knight e5 and knight a7 was also good because, I mean, the key is just to get rid of one of the bishops just to really simplify matters because that's the now he can't even stop the c-pawn becoming a queen. So,
yes, and that's
when you're that much material ahead, just simplify the easiest way is normally the quickest way to do it.
So another game from Nigel with black.
They're off again. So finally a d4 opening. White's going for a kind of Catalan structure. Yep, looks like we're going to see some kind of hedgehog. Knight c6, pieces coming out. It might be tempting for White to play bishop g5 now. b3 instead is another good move to put the bishop to b2. Also supporting the pawn on c4. So Black's kind of got the bishop. Bishop's often on e7 in these kind of positions, but he's kind of locked it outside to the pawn structure on c5, but it could be active there.
Yeah, at the same time, I would like to mention that David Haller is the highest point player right now with 7 points from 7 games and 7 wins in a row. So he got actually 25 points out of those games.
Okay. Yeah, we have seen him win quite a lot of games.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's like Thomas Render also has quite a good score.
We have 2 players winning all their games. 7 games in a row.
So yeah, I'm not sure about that move. It looks like white can just take this pawn on d4, and there it goes. Yeah, black's last few moves didn't really. His knight b4 was a bit. Didn't really do a lot. Just forced white's queen back, and then d5, d4, a6. Really just forced white to do what she wanted to do. So a3, driving the knight back. And the bishop on b2 is now opened up against the knight on f6. Maybe we just want to take that. Perhaps go queen h6 afterwards. Looks quite decent way for white to play.
But now black can play bishop e7, maybe.
Oh, nice tactic there.
Yeah, really. Yeah, that was a good move.
Yeah, I wasn't looking in that direction at all, but the idea king takes f2, knight e4 check, forking the king and queen. But king f1's a calm response, so still some problems with this knight on f6 hanging. h6 to drive the queen back. Another good move. Yeah, some resourceful play from Nigel here.
Queen h4, what do you think?
Tricky player. Queen h4, maybe knight e4 to support the bishop and get the knight to a safe square. Yeah. A very complicated position. But white's king also not completely happy anymore.
Maybe bishop e5 at some point.
You want to play knight e4, bishop d4?
Bishop e5 after knight e4.
Bishop e5, yeah. Not sure does that do so much. Maybe queen b7.
And then, can we go queen g4 then?
Yeah, I mean, it's also possible to go queen g4 immediately. I guess black will reply f5. And the queen covers g7. White could also maybe try something like knight e5. Again, I think black would perhaps have to reply f5. It's quite a chain of things, but I like knight e5 in general. Looks f5, at least if she takes the bishop on c6 and what black recaptures, that looks like quite a nice pin on the knight on e4. I'm not quite sure what white can do. Maybe some move like queen e7, perhaps. It is quite a confusing position.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out if there's any tactical opportunities here at some point. Taking g7, but that doesn't look like very possible.
Yeah, I think black has to play f5. I don't see any other move. Bishop c5, but I think this just loses.
Doesn't lose a piece?
Yeah, I think white can either take on c6 or even just take on e4 immediately, but taking on c6 looks good.
And now takes with bishop and takes another.
Yeah, now it's going to be a whole rook.
So that was tempting to play queen g4.
Yeah, white might want to perhaps bring the queen back to e4 and take control of that diagonal. Yeah, good move. Stopping any counterplay with queen c6, because now it looks not too much hope for black. And queen e5, another good move, just forcing the queens off. Hard to see how black can survive missing a rook here. Bishop d6. Everything's going. And white's starting to pick off pawns as well.
Yeah, that's
so nice finish there.
Very nice finish. Now
David Howes won it.
the top board, like David Howell playing with white.
David Howell's won another 2 games whilst we were watching that one. Actually, it looks like quite a decent position for Keith here. It's also another kind of hedgehog structure. It looks quite okay for black. Securing the pawn on d7 with bishop c6.
And we know that black wants to go to the rook ending, right?
Keith will get there eventually.
I mean, he loves those games.
But something went a little bit wrong. That knight arriving on d6 was probably not exactly as intended. Also, now the knight on e5 is under pressure. So actually suddenly some huge problems for black. Because knight g6, white could play knight takes f7 and bishop h5. So not that easy. Maybe Keith will have to try and either take the knight on d6 immediately or perhaps defend the knight on e5. That's what he's gone for. But it looks a bit shaky. f4, the knight will have to go to g6. And perhaps the idea I mentioned of knight takes f7 and bishop h5 could be good. Could also go bishop takes f6. Oh, he's gone for that. Looks like white's picking off a pawn and quite a good position. Oh, he pre-moved.
That was so fun.
You see, you fancy people with your pre-moves. It would never have happened to me. I never pre-move.
Yeah, that's a good lesson for me.
So I'm not sure that's completely the end of the game because you can still maybe play knight takes h6 check. And Keith can't capture it because there'll be some queen g6. He's taken on f6 first, but he's going to take on h6 now, I guess. Or perhaps even queen g6 immediately.
Hey, Mickey and Shohreh, a big thank you for that commentary. It's been really fascinating. I'm going to switch now. I'm going to do a very quick reboot of my machine actually for just 1 minute. And so thank you both very, very much. And hope to see, I know, Shohreh, you're going to play a few games later and Mickey might. So we'll hope to see you later and enjoy the rest of the tournament.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Michael. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you, Shohreh. Thanks for having me.